Mike Gundy, for whatever reason, Oklahoma State lost their starting quarterback to a broken foot, and their leading sack getter in week one committed a crime, and so I have no idea where they're at, but they're not overly impressive.
Got arrested for larceny.
Feels like he's on the hot seat. He talked about this mattering when you play a team like Oregon.
The same thing as you. They're a good football team. Oregon is playing really well. I think they're well coached. They're spending a lot of money. And, they've put a lot into that organization, and you can see they're a good football team.
So
it should also be added, too, by the way. Yeah. So there was another quote on his radio show. So that was at his press conference. Mm-hmm. He made another one on his weekly coaches radio show or whatever, where he said that Oregon spent $40 million on the roster last year.
He also kind of, I think it was the same coaches show where he's indicating, like, playing teams. You should play opponents that spend
you
same
should play
level.
Comparable spending. Why would we play somebody who spends $40 million when we spend $7 million on our roster?
So Dan Lanning is. I was surprised he answered it, to be honest, because he was just told about it, unless he had heard it and he knew it.
I think he heard about it.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. But Dan Lanning was told about it at the press conference, or at least opened him up to responding, and this was Dan Lanning's response.
Yeah, it sounds like there is, listening to him talk. Like I said, I got a ton of respect for Coach Gundy. Ultimately, how blessed are we to be in a place that's invested in winning? If you want to be a top 10 team in college football, you better be invested in winning. And we spend to win. Some people save to have an excuse for why they don't, right? And ultimately, he's a great coach. They've done an unbelievable job, but I want to be a team that's competing at the highest level. And we're really fortunate to be in that situation. So I can't speak on their situation. I have no idea, what they got in their pockets over there. I'm sure UT Martin maybe didn't have as much as them last week, and they played. So we'll let it play out.
We got them, boys. Why, Gundy? You're such an idiot. I just don't.
They're going to drop 60 on him.
Yeah, this one might be personal after that kind of stuff.
He'll shake his hand. He'll give him his respect publicly. Yeah. Internally, dude, the guy's a psycho. We saw it, right? They're fighting for clicks. You're fighting for wins. Like, you talk with your helmet.
It's just ridiculous to come out as a coach and say we should schedule non-conference based on roster budgets to make it fair and equitable when you just played UT Martin.
You also had one of the richest donors when he was alive for
And he spent the entire offseason, Gundy, that is, bragging about how much money they spent on this roster.
Yeah.
The entire offseason. I love when coaches throw out numbers. They spent $40 million on their roster.
He smirked at that when he heard it, too. He was like, 40, huh?
Oh, okay. 40. That's what we're up to now. I thought it was 20 last year. Now it's 40. We're talking about this year's team or last year's team? We spent $800 million on this year's roster? What are we, the Dodgers? This is a Shohei Ohtani contract? It's hilarious. Throw out all the red meat that you want. But it was a perfect response from Lanning of, if that's the way that you feel, then why did you play UT Martin last week? Why didn't you go find somebody?
That is the ultimate ether. It's just
you literally just did this. So we can only play Alabama and Texas in non-conference. We're not allowed to play anybody else. Come on, man. This is the way the sport has always been. Some teams spend more than others to win. It's just above board now more than it ever has been.
I am expecting a butt whooping this weekend. Maybe I'm overlooking, I guess, certain elements of Oklahoma State, but I saw
line's up to 29.
The line's bigger than it was for Montana State, which I think says a lot about the weird nature of week one lines because, again, it was a reaction to what happened last year against Idaho and this idea that Oregon doesn't have any talent because they lost guys to the NFL as if recruiting rankings don't matter and they haven't stockpiled 3 or 4 consecutive top 3, top 4 classes in the country. Look, there's not a lot that you can take from a Montana State game.
No, there isn't.
But some of the stuff that's like, dude, the number of guys that they played that looked like above-the-line players, the number of true freshmen that were in the game, DeCorian Moore looked the part. Kenyon Sadiq just shoved another grown man off of him and scored a touchdown.
Well, that guy's not quite the...
He's not a Kenyon Sadiq grown man, but that's a college football player, and he just shoved him like a rag doll. It'd be like me trying to tackle Sukanik in the open field, and it's not going to go very well for me. That's
a good poll question.
That's the equivalent. If I tried to tackle Jason Sukanik in open field, that's what would happen to me. And he did that to another player. So there are a lot of those kind of that looked good. And now I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
We'll get back into them in the final hour. We'll ask, obviously, Max Chadwick maybe where Oregon sits in his mind after week 1 results. He's going to join us for PFF for the Daily Ticker at the top of the hour. You said the Oklahoma State line was 29
to
29.
Came back, it's 28.5 right now at ALNA. So it was 29 earlier in the show.
But Montana State was 28.
28 and a half, I think, is what it closed at.
So I'll tell you what I'm doing this weekend.
Today I'm laying the big wood.
Hard.
Their starting quarterback got hurt, and their best defensive player probably won't make the trip because he got arrested. But
don't put it past Oklahoma State.
Don't put it past Oklahoma State.